Hello everyone, and welcome to this SOLIDWORKS 22-minute webinar, Data Management Beyond CAD. My name is Cliff Medling and I'll be your host. And we're going to jump right in and get started as we have a lot to cover in just 22 minutes. A couple of quick items I wanted to point out before we get started. First, in the On24 webcast system, you'll see the presentation in this window, but also have access to other items in the console at the bottom. There's a resource list, and very important, there's a QA button, a red QA button. If you click on that, have any questions for us to answer after the 22 minutes, please enter your questions there. Or if you're having problems, please enter your questions there. We're also going to have several poll questions during the webinar. These are interactive, and we will be showing the results, so please answer those quickly so we can keep moving forward. If the broadcast stops at any time, try hitting the F5 button or the refresh button on your browser. And with that, I wanted to introduce our presenter today. Kurt Lundstedt is the product manager for SOLIDWORKS Enterprise PDM. He's been with SOLIDWORKS for over 12 years now and has been involved in the CAD CAM industry for over 25 years. Kurt's going to be discussing 6 common real-life issues with data management beyond just your CAD data. And then he has about a 10-minute demonstration on using SOLIDWORKS EPDM and managing all that data. And with that, Kurt, thank you, and it's all yours.
Great, Cliff. Thanks for that great introduction. As Cliff mentioned, we're going to have a few polls along the way, and we have one right now. So we'd like to know if you're using a PDM system to manage your non-CAD data. This might be a system like SharePoint or Documentum or something like that. All right. Give it just another couple of seconds and we'll go to the results. All right, so about evenly split. So we've got about 45% say yes and about 54% are saying no. All right, thanks everyone for participating in that. We're going to talk about 6 common problems companies encounter managing their files. First, we have wasted time searching for files. Windows offers some search tools, but it's limited in what it can actually search for, and users often resort to browsing through numerous folders. Since many users store files locally, as well as on network drives, files may exist in more than one location. The second common problem is it's difficult to maintain past versions of files. It's common and often necessary to keep old versions or revisions. To do this, files are either renamed with the version or revision added to the file name or copied to another archive folder. Thus, new changes are usually just saved over the previous ones, so no history is maintained. Next, we have the issue of naming files and deciding where to put them. Companies often have templates that users can copy and rename, but following company guidelines on naming and storage locations can be difficult. In addition, users want to keep files on their local machines so they have access to them while they're away from the office. The fourth common problem is how we handle multiple authors when users are collaborating on one file. Windows will add the tilde file when somebody opens a file for write access, but knowing who's working on it isn't immediately apparent. There's also the issue that one user might mistakenly overwrite the changes made by another one, resulting in lost work. Number 5 on our list is knowing when changes have been made to a file. If you're waiting for somebody to be done with their edits, you need to constantly monitor Windows Explorer to see when the tilde file is gone. Even if the person saves and closes the file, you might not know if they are done with their edits and if the file is ready for review. Lastly, we have the issue of creating and filling out commonly used files and forms. In an attempt to standardize the way information is captured and documented, companies will produce common files or templates. Then it's up to the users to fill them out appropriately. This often requires keying in information that could be from a list of choices or needs to be found from a different source. This results in incomplete and inconsistent information. Okay, I have another poll question for you. We'd like to know how many people outside of engineering or design in your company need a way to access electronic design data, something like drawings. All right, a couple more seconds and we'll wrap this poll up. Okay. Great. Looks like we have more than 10 people as a majority, so 50% of you have more than 10 people that need to view data outside of engineering. That's great. Now we're going to look at how EPDM, or Enterprise PDM, solves these issues. Remembering the first problem we talked about was wasted time searching for files. As we talked about before, searching for SOLIDWORKS data using standard Windows capabilities falls short on what a user can actually search on and how the results are displayed. Here's how Enterprise PDM handles this. There are robust search tools right inside Windows Explorer in any file open dialog. This means if you're using any standard Windows-based application like Word or Excel, you can browse or search the vault while using the file open dialogs for those applications. Enterprise PDM will even read and write custom properties to Office documents, as well as many other file types. You can create and store search favorites. After a user has spent a little time entering some search criteria, such as finding all budget spreadsheets that are waiting for approval, they can save it as a favorite so it's readily available for next time, and they can share it with other users or groups. Customizable search and input dialogues. Depending on a user's job function or department, they may want to have different options for entering search criteria. For instance, someone in manufacturing who receives a work order with a list of part numbers may want a single input field for a part number, whereas someone in engineering may want to search by multiple search items such as description, material type, and project. Next, since all search input may not be included in the file name or custom properties, content search will find text in MS Office documents, PDFs, drawing notes, specification sheets, etc. Let's say you're looking for a file and you forgot where you put it and what you called it, but you know it had something to do with the word sharing. So you could just enter the word sharing into the search dialog, and EPDM would find all the files with that string. All design data and other files are managed in one location, so there's only one place a user needs to look for it. Even if the files are on a remote replicated server, Enterprise PDM databases house all the data and provides it to users in real time. Quicker browsing due to organized and consistent vault structure. Even if a user still prefers to browse over searching, Enterprise PDM can be easily configured to create new folder structures in a controlled, consistent manner so users know what to expect each time they go into a subfolder. And with Windows Explorer preview tabs, which we'll see shortly in the demonstrations, users have instant access to file data and viewing while they're browsing. There's even a built-in file preview. So once you find something, you can quickly decide if it's what you're looking for. Now we'll look at problem 2, which deals with maintaining past versions of files. Enterprise PDM takes care of this by automatically creating new versions with every check-in. It stores the user information in the file history so you know who worked on which version and when. You have access to older versions for viewing or to use as a starting point for a new version. You have access to older unapproved versions are controlled via user rights. And there's even an integration for file comparison tools so you can see the difference between two versions of the same file. Let's move on to that third problem, deciding where to store and how to name files. EPDM has template functionality that easily captures input from the user, then utilizes it to create new files, file content, and folder structures combined. No need to choose where to store data since it will all go into Enterprise PDM. Because folder structures can be created in a consistent manner, browsing is made much easier. And EPDM can be used in offline mode, so files can be accessed even when the computer is disconnected from the network. Now for that fourth problem of handling multiple authors. And here's what EPDM can do for that. EPDM has the concept of checking out and checking in files. Users obtain write permissions through a checkout and save their changes back to the system when they check in. The user has a file checked out is displayed throughout the user interface, so you always know who's working on a file. There are user info pop-ups that appear when you hover over a username that allow you to instantly communicate via chat, email, social networking, or the old-fashioned telephone. Changes are preserved in versions, so if one user overwrites or deletes something that another one added, it can be retrieved from the previous version. Read-write access is much more granular than Windows offers, so if a file is in a state like approved or released, it can have different rights than when it was in an editing state. Let's go on to knowing when a file has been updated. This is easily solved by Enterprise PDM. And here's how. EPDM can send out notifications automatically when something changes. These notifications can come through your email system or the built-in notification system, like Outlook. You can have admin and user-specified notifications, so users can add their own. It's available for many different occurrences, such as check-in or check-out of a file, workflow state change, files added to a folder, deadline passed or delayed in a state. Now let's take a look at that sixth problem, which is creating and filling out commonly used files and forms. Here's how EPDM can make these tasks much easier. Utilizing EPDM's template functionality, new files and folder structures can be created based on information a user enters into the configurable input forms. These forms can incorporate text entry boxes, drop lists, radio buttons, checkboxes, images, and more. This makes the information much easier to enter and more consistent. Information gathered from the input forms can then be used to name the new files and decide where the files should reside. In addition, the information can also be pushed into the file itself to fill out text fields or cells in a spreadsheet. And lastly, requirements can be set to ensure that required data is entered and meets certain length requirements. All right, got one more poll here for you, which asks, what single feature would you be most looking for in a PDM solution? Another way to look at this is which of the possible answers would bring you the most benefit.
All right, we got search, version control, file backup, and a popular one is integrated into SOLIDWORKS and any other issues, which you're looking to you most needed in a PDM system. All right, a couple more seconds.
All right, we'll look at the results now. Well, version control wins out at almost 50%. I'm going to share those results with everybody. All right. Well, now let's take a look at Enterprise PDM in action. We're just going to switch over to a video I created earlier today using Enterprise PDM 2013.
As I mentioned earlier, Enterprise PDM is built right into Windows Explorer, so users don't need to have another program or interface to deal with. As you can see, there's a connection point to Enterprise PDM right under my C drive list, and is highlighted by this blue and white icon we refer to as the blueberry. Double-clicking on this connection point, just like I would to open any other folder, I'm asked to log in. Enterprise PDM can use Active Directory credentials, so users don't need to remember another username and password, and can be set up for auto login, so they wouldn't even see the login screen. I'll log in as Neil, who is a member of the Engineering and Finance groups, and Neil gets away with not entering a password. Now that I'm logged in, you can see that Windows Explorer has a different look. For one thing, the folders inside EPDM are green instead of the standard yellow, and the file list area is split to show the preview tabs, which we'll see in a little bit. These tabs display all kinds of useful information about the selected file or folder. In the file list on top, we not only see the standard columns offered by Windows Explorer, but we also see the additional columns that can display file attribute information like description, part number, and revision. I have this vault set up where each department has their own folder branch. You can set the folder structure up any way you like, so it could mimic your current shared drive structure. As I browse into the engineering folder, you can see that it contains a number of project folders numbered sequentially, as well as folders for ECN. I have my SOLIDWORKS toolbox in there, standard libraries, and so on. The projects were all set up using the template function, so each one is automatically numbered and contains the same subfolder structure. This consistent structure makes it very easy to navigate. Let's create another project using a template. All I need to do is right-click in whitespace, which brings up the standard Windows File menu, and it has the new flyout menu as well. You'll notice that there are extra choices here that EPDM added, which allow me to create a number of new documents and structures. These items can be grouped into their own flyout menu, like this one for SOLIDWORKS files. I'll choose the project structure template. This brings up a user input form that I configured for my vault. As you can see, there are various controls and inputs to gather information about this new project. First, I'll enter the project name here at the top. This is going to be for a new drill. As you can see, the next project number is automatically being assigned by EPDM. Next are a series of drop lists to capture information about what type of project this is for. This example is set up as a power tool company, so the first one lets me choose the tool category. The second list is based on what I choose in the first one and lets me choose the type of tool. If I change my selection in the first list, the second one updates. The next one specifies a location, and if I choose the United States, then the state list is enabled, so I can select a state. And I'll just select a state here. We'll maybe pick Ohio. The customer list is generated from a database query, so it will update as new customers are entered. There are also date fields for start and completion dates, and finally a description field which I'll enter some text into. Well, first I better give it an end date. We'll give it a couple of months here. Now I'll just enter some text real quick. Oops, I didn't enter enough information into the description, so I'll go back and be a little more descriptive. This is the validation that I mentioned earlier. I'll tell a little bit more what this project's about, and select OK. Now that I've entered all the information in the form, I go ahead and create the new project structure. In addition to the folders, the template also created a couple of files. We're seeing the data card for a new MS project file that received the information I just entered. I have a choice of whether to open the file or just to create it. I'll go ahead and create it. Here's a new structure that was captured along with the MS project file as an Excel file for the budget. I'll open this up so we can see that information in the file. One of the first things you might notice is that Excel has an Enterprise PDM menu bar. You are among the first people to see this integration, which will be available in late June. It'll also work inside of Word and PowerPoint. The other thing you might have noticed is the project number and names have been automatically added to these cells up at the top. These are linked to the data card, so if I update it in one place, the other is also updated. I'll just modify the name and check the file in right from the menu bar. Make a few quick edits here. Save it, and we'll go ahead and check it in. Even if I forget to check out the file before I make the modifications, I don't lose my changes when I do check it out. All right, we'll go ahead and close Excel. And we'll get back to Windows Explorer. Now I'll use another template to create an ECN on an existing design. This template creates a Word document that will have a different data card than the other Word documents because of where it is stored in the vault. Another right click and bring up my ECN. I'll just quickly fill in the information here and open the file. I'll pick the project. I'll pick a past project. These lists was automatically updated. Fill in some more information about what this is all about. And whether it changes form, fit, or function, instruction sheet change, what I'm going to do with my scrap. This is all can be customized. You can see that the ECN number is automatically assigned as well. And we'll go ahead and select OK. You can see the data card captured all that information, automatically names the file for me. I'll set a date, and we'll just say we want to open this file up. All the information has been pushed into the file. I want to associate some CAD files that are affected by the CCN, so I'll access the EPDM Integrated Search tool right here back into Windows Explorer. Running the search on the word clip in either the name or its property. After I run the search, you can see I get a number of hits. So I'm sort this and make sure I'm selecting the right one. I need the one with the slot in it. And to make sure, I'll just look at the integrated preview. And if I click on that, I can get into the eDrawings preview and really get a close look and see if this is the one I want. That's the one I think that's the one I want. So I'll just right click on that and do a copy, and I'll go back to the folder with the ECN, and I'll right click and just paste as reference. And I won't show this in the bill of material. Now back at the Word document, I have a little button here in the file that updates the reference list. Lists the file there for me, and I'll go ahead and check in right from my EPDM menu bar. And you can see that the association between the Word document and the SOLIDWORKS file has been created. Add a quick comment, and we'll go ahead and check in. Back in Windows Explorer, we can see the contains information for the ECN shows the SOLIDWORKS part that was affected by it. And if I go to the SOLIDWORKS file, browsing to it using the Browse To, and I use the Where Used tab, shows that the file is connected to the ECN, as long as with some others, letting anyone know that wants to use this file that are some changes taking place. Now that I'm finished with this ECN, I'll jump back to it and submit it for approval by changing its workflow state. EPDM workflows can be easily configured to match your company's processes and can be used to automate various tasks and send notifications. I'll enter a quick comment and send it on its way. Now I'll log off as Neil and log back in as Mark, who is part of this workflow process. And Mark will get away with not entering a password as well. Let's log in. After I log in, I will be automatically notified about the ECN that is pending approval. I'm using the internal message system, but notifications can be sent through your email system as well. The notification contains all the pertinent information about the change, including the comment that Neil entered, as well as links to the file, location, and the history, which we'll take a look at now. Hovering over the username in the history dialog displays a pop-up about the user, which allows me to quickly contact them if I have any questions. The history dialog also shows a timeline of who worked on the file and what they did. This concludes the demonstration portion of this presentation.
All right, getting back to the presentation, I just want to mention some important areas of Enterprise PDM that we didn't have time to talk about today. First, we have version and revision management. We saw a little bit of this when I updated the Excel sheet, but EPDM's capabilities in this area run much deeper to ensure people are always working with the right version of the file. BOM management and export. Creating and connecting BOM information from EPDM to other business systems eliminates data reentry and improves efficiency. EPDM also comes with multiple CAD integrations, so for companies that also use AutoCAD, Inventor, Solid Edge, or ProE, they can manage that data in a single environment. An easy-to-use admin tool for configuring the system. It also has multi-site capabilities for companies that have multiple locations. EPDM's built-in replication capabilities ensures that files are easily accessible wherever users are located. And EPDM is all-inclusive, even including SQL Server, meaning there's no separate modules to buy. Now we have another poll question for you. Let us know what your interest level in Enterprise PDM is. Hopefully you saw something interesting today that you might make a positive impact on your business. All right.
And I want to remind everybody while you answer this poll question, if you have any questions for Kurt, please enter them in the red Q&A box now, and we'll be sure to get to these right after we get to these poll questions. Actually, Kurt, is there any questions we can go ahead and answer? Or
No, I think we're all set.
okay, so let's move on to the last poll question, and then.
Okay. For the last question, we'd like to know if you would like any further information from us, maybe ready for a quote, or if you want to see a deeper demonstration of the product.
We can leave that one up.
Okay.
So first of all, question over here about how much time does it take to install SOLIDWORKS EPDM, Kurt?
Well, installing the software itself takes very little time. I mean, SQL Server is probably the longest component, and that might take you about a half an hour or 20 minutes, something like that. Installing the servers, the database and the archive servers, just a couple of minutes, and along with the client. So you could really have a system up and running in a couple hours, because EPDM even includes a predefined vault with workflows and data cards, and everything's already set up, and you'd be ready to go. Training is, for users is only about a half a day, depending on what kind of customization a company wants to do there. And the admin training's 2 or 3 days, again depending on the level of customization a company wants to do, but very easy to get it up and running.
Kurt, next question here is or will there be a tablet interface for this software and or possibly a web interface? It's a good question.
Yeah, it is a good question. We do have a web interface today that ships with the product. It is only for Internet Explorer, but we are working on something in that area that will handle other browsers and devices and everything. So please stay tuned for the new stuff coming in the next release of the product.
Another question here, how would your product integrate into other products such as Windchill or SharePoint?
Certainly you can make connections between other products and EPDM through there's a full API that comes with EPDM, so you can access information in EPDM and push it or pull it from other systems. So we've integrated with ERP systems like Infor, SAP, Microsoft Dynamics, and so on, and also other systems like Agile and so forth.
Great. Does each person who simply wants to view, not edit a file in EPDM have to have a license?
Yes, we have 3 different license types. There's the top license, which results in the most expensive one, is for CAD users, which includes all the CAD integrations, so you don't have to buy individual ones. You buy one of the CAD editor license, you get all the CAD integrations. Then we have a contributor license, which is for non-CAD users, but for users that want to edit or add information into the vault, so for authors. And then we have one that's called a viewer license, and those are pretty inexpensive, and you can search and view, print, and participate in workflows with that license. So it's good for maybe shop floor or for managers that just need to see information and approve it.
Great. Next question from David. Can the approval of submitted documents be a digital signature?
Yes, that's entirely true. So if you, for instance, if you have a drawing or any other type of document that goes through an approval, you can capture that user's username and write it into the file itself. So let's say a typical example would be a title block on a drawing. So when somebody approves a drawing, it'll automatically fill out that title block with their name, date, and other information that you can grab at the time when that's approved.
Great. Another question about Pro eFiles. Does it maintain the parametrics in Pro eFiles?
Well, if you mean by parametrics, if it maintains the references, yes. So it will understand the references, the parent-child relationships between Pro Engineer parts, assemblies, drawings, features, manufacturing data, and so forth. It also recognizes the custom properties, or they have another term for it, and we also recognize the configurations or the different iterations of a file, so the generic or whatever iterations you want. We recognize the data from each one of those too.
Question here, concurrent or named user license model?
It is a concurrent user license model, so it's just concurrent users that are logged in, and the licensing for EPDM works a little different than it does for SOLIDWORKS in that it can be used, a single license can be used throughout the day anywhere in the world. It even extends to customers and vendors of a company that buys it, so you could provide access to a vendor or a customer that they could log in and see certain portions of the vault, either through the thick client or through the web client.
All right, Kurt, here's a new one for you. This may stump you.
All right, stump the chump. Let's go.
Have you ever interfaced with QuickBooks?
That's a good one. No, I have not. I've not heard of an interface with QuickBooks. I am a Quicken user, but not QuickBooks. But I know they probably have their own proprietary database behind it. Certainly, if there is some type of an API or a way to interface with QuickBooks, it'd be a fairly easy consulting job with one of our value-added resellers or partners to create an integration between the two. We certainly can integrate with other business systems, so the QuickBooks would be no different, I don't think.
Good. That was much more knowledge than I knew. This is interesting. Can we submit to you a capability spectrum requirement for you to complete as part of our product comparison? I'm sure we could.
Oh yes,
have somebody follow up.
We absolutely. Our sales and technical team does that all the time. So if you need to contact them, just let us know. We'll set you up with the right contacts, and you can submit the request for quote or your requirements document, and we can answer all your questions that way.
Good. I think this is another follow-up question on Pro-E. What version of Pro-E file does it support? Wildfire 5.0, etc.?
Yes, we support Wildfire 3, 4, Wildfire 5, or Creo 1.0, which is basically the same thing, and we are currently working on supporting Creo 2.0.
But we'd prefer you just switch to SOLIDWORKS, right?
Yeah, of course, but there's still a little Pro-E left out there, so.
And let's take maybe a couple more questions. I think
sure.
I think we've. I think that's actually about it. Unless I missed yours, we will definitely try to get back via email. And also, you can watch this presentation later using the same link you had earlier, and you can watch the recording and still send us QA questions. It still goes to my email. We'll be sure to get you an answer. So, with that, Kurt, thanks again, and.
Pleasure.
And feel free, if you have any questions, I know there's some here, some folks wanting us to contact you, absolutely will. Thank you. Hit stop.